if you would look at, let's say, the customer journey for getting a pessary, then in daily practice, on average, it would mean that you'll have 3 to 4 doctor visits to find the right size of pessary. Then once you finally have it, indeed, as Mirjam describes, there's still a lot of side effects. And even, let's say, 3 to 4 doctor visits a year to have it cleaned and put back in. So in that sense, the customer journey in itself is a disaster, because women these days, of course, want to do all these kind of things themselves if they can. They won't accept, let's say, these kind of dependence on doctors, etc.
Hey, welcome back to Women Disrupting Tech, and thank you for tuning into episode 164. My name is Dirk-Jan Hupkes, and this is the podcast that closes the funding gap in venture capital by amplifying the stories of female founders and their investors. Pelvic organ prolapse is a condition that affects half of the women over 40. Yet, it's a condition that is never really talked about. The women who are affected by it have two options: surgery or a pessary. Surgery does not address the underlying problem in the pelvic tissue, while pessaries come with unwanted and painful side effects. Plus, existing pessaries need to be cleaned every 3 months by a healthcare professional. That lack of a sustainable solution, plus the unwillingness from pessary producers to innovate, prompted Mirjam Weemhoff and her co-founders to start building Flexsupp, an adaptable pessary that matches the complex, unique anatomy of the pelvic floor, that allows women to use it when they need it and clean it at the privacy of their own home. In today's episode, Mirjam and her co-founder Bart van Diepenbeek share their story. By listening, you'll learn what the impact of pelvic organ prolapse on a woman's quality of life is, why the industry has no incentive to innovate a suboptimal solution, and how their individually adaptable pessary gives back agency to millions of women. Plus, you'll discover how Bart uses being a man to normalize the conversation around pelvic organ prolapse, both in lifting the taboo and in fundraising. So when you're ready to discover how Saturn Pelvic Health is building an adaptable pessary to restore women's autonomy, here's my conversation with Mirjam Weemhoff and Bart van Diepenbeek. Before we start, I wanted to let you know about a cool event that is coming up. The TEDx Koolhaven Women event takes place on October 9th from 6:30 to 11:30 in the evening at Hal 4 aan de Maas in Rotterdam. This year's theme is The New Builders, a theme that seamlessly aligns with the content on this podcast. Throughout the evening, you'll hear powerful TED Talks from women who are redesigning the systems that shape our lives, from leadership and parenting to women's health, mental health care, and access to investment capital. Together, they'll explore what it takes to build a better future. As a listener to this podcast, you know that we're living in a time of transformation, one that women can and should contribute to as well. So you know that this evening is going to be one of a kind. That is why I'm happy to offer you the opportunity to be there in person, to listen to groundbreaking talks and meet and network with like-minded people. As a listener to this podcast, you'll get a 25% discount when you use the code WDT25 at checkout. And even though this is a TEDx Women event, men are very welcome to join. To buy your ticket, follow the link in the caption and remember to use the code WDT25 before entering your payment details. With that, let's listen to this week's episode of Women Disrupting Tech. Bart van Diepenbeek, Mirjam Weemhoff, welcome to Women Disrupting Tech. Good to have you.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about pelvic health today and about Saturn Pelvic Health, your company, and about Flexsupp. That's the name of the product that you're building, I think.
Yeah, right.
Let's start with some background. maybe let's start with you, Mirjam. How did you end up working on pelvic health, pelvic floor health, and what led to founding Saturn Pelvic Health?
Yeah. Well, I'm a urogynecologist, and every day I treat women with pelvic organ prolapse. And every day I see how they struggle with this problem, and I see the limitations of the therapy that we have to use for people with pelvic organ prolapse. And when people have a prolapse, they only have two possibilities: surgery or pessary. And a pessary, well, it's a good thing when it works well, but the problem is that it's often not works well enough. And 10 years ago, I was working in Maastricht University Medical Center as a urogynecologist, and I worked there together with Kim Notte, one of our co-founders in Saturn, and I supervised her PhD research. And we had a lot of patients together to care for. And we had a lot of discussions together about, how could we make a better pessary? How could we make it more patient friendly? How could we make it work, make it more, let it work better? And in the beginning, it was more at the coffee table, and gradually it became more seriously. And so, in a few years, we really got serious ideas about how we could make this better. And then we had these clinical ideas of us as doctors, but to translate that to really a redesign in product, there we needed technical skills. So Lars Brogard, one of our other founders, was brought in there, and he made the translations from our clinical idea to a product. And later on, most recently, Bart joined us, and he to build the company and to lead the business side. So that's maybe a good introduction for Bart to come in and.
Thank you, Mirjam, for the introduction. Because for me, indeed, the way was completely different. I didn't know anything about pelvic organ prolapse whatsoever, because I have a background in management and entrepreneurship in completely different areas. Though one beautiful sunny Saturday morning, I was looking at the play of my son at field hockey. And next to me was a nice lady. I've spoken to her before. And she asked me if there was a moment for us to brainstorm about an idea she had. And of course, that was Kim. Kim was by that time already, I think, 10 years together with Mirjam and Lars, putting the ideas into motion, designing into a product. Though for her, it was difficult indeed, let's say, how to build a company. All being having a scientific background. And she said, well, is there just a way that we can have a cup of coffee and brainstorm about what you would do? As she knew I was in business for quite some time already. And of course, for me, a cup of coffee at the kitchen table is never a problem. So from that moment onwards, Kim and Lars came to me, had a cup of coffee, and I was immediately caught by the idea of the problem there is for so many women, and the fairly pragmatic solution they had invented. So after a good night of sleep, I said that I would really like to join them in bringing this idea to the market.
Okay.
So where all the other co-founders have a scientific background and have been studying this for many years, I just got caught by the brilliant idea and decided to step in.
Okay, and what made you think like, hey, this is also for me as a man? Because we met at a women's health event in Rotterdam, Bart.
Yes.
And first of all, I was a bit struck by the fact that it was a man talking about pelvic prolapse on stage, which is typically not a condition that men will run into. So what made this work for you?
Well, indeed, this is not the typical subject to discuss amongst men on birthdays or whatever, on parties. Though what struck me was, on the one hand, the passion Kim and Lars showed at that kitchen table on their product, but also they clearly show the unmet need there currently is. And although, of course, I will not suffer from pelvic organ prolapse myself, they really did a good job in explaining what the exact problem was and how it could be solved. And I think most importantly is that how many women suffer from that condition. So on the one hand, I was caught by the unmet need and the way that we could help millions of women having a better, comfortable life. And there's always, let's say, a personal gain. That's always the balance. You bring something and you take something. And for me, I have worked for many corporate companies, also led a few scale-ups. And for me personally, this was the first time that I could actually start from scratch on with an idea, a prototype, and truly build the company from day one. And I think most importantly, what I understood from minute one is that this team of founders I joined, so both Mirjam, Kim, and Lars, I felt trust and energy from them from the start. So that's really helpful, that if you start a company together, that you do feel that click and that trust. And from second one, it was there. So combining the opportunity to actually start a company, having a great founders team, and a true unmet need to be solved, that combination made me decide, after a good night of sleep, I want to join this movement.
Okay. Mirjam.
Yes, we also we have thought about the choice when at the moment when we were looking for a CEO. Beginning, we thought we have to find a female CEO that belongs to our company, but there were, apart from that, we really think that Bart is the right person. We also thought about female, male, and we do think that it's good to have a combination in our team. And perhaps one advantage of Bart is very openly speaking. Hey, you already noticed he's very easy in making the conversation also about this more delicate topics. And I think you can also serve a bit as a bridge because a lot of investors are male investors. And and they sometimes feel a bit uncomfortable talking these pelvic floor disorder thing. And Bart can help to normalize this conversation. And it's not only a hidden female thing, but it's a big part of the world population that faces this problem, and it helps
maybe
also male, also men, normalize this topic.
Yeah, I think that is important. But what I wanted to hint on is also how prevalent is this? Because that was the statistic that really shocked me when I heard it, Mirjam. How often does it happen that women suffer from pelvic floor problems?
Yeah. Pelvic floor disorders are very common. 1 in 2 to 3 women above 45 have some degree of pelvic organ prolapse. 1 in 5 have symptoms, and 1 of 10 will undergo surgery in a life. So these numbers are really huge, and it's not known because it's very a hidden problem. Because it concerns intimate problems, problems with feeling a vaginal bulge outside your vagina, conflicts with your bladder, the bowel, sexuality, a body perspective, confidence. These are really intimate topics. And these are not the topics that you, well, as Bart already said, talk about on birthday parties.
Not even for women.
No, not even for women. I think now the new generation will start talking with friends. Things like when you are going to the sport that people, well, maybe have a bit of urine loss or something like that. So maybe the next generation will talk a bit more easily than the women now that are now 60, 70. But it's still a hidden problem, and it's a lot of women that I see in my practice. For them, I'm the first person they can openly speak about what they feel, because I see the relief that someone understands what they are feeling and how the impact is from something like a prolapse on all these other functions from your bladder, your bowel, your sexuality. And so it really impacts the quality of daily life, because it's all these normal functions are influenced by pelvic organ prolapse.
Yeah, because what is the trickle down effect? Does it
Yeah.
also affect how these organs work?
Mhm. Yeah, when someone has a prolapse, the bladder or the uterus, the womb, or the intestines, they bulge out of the vagina. Or you can compare it with a hernia abdominal, in the belly. If there's a scar, and one can have a hernia from a scar. Maybe people are more familiar with that. And it's actually the same thing, but then it's only vaginally, and it comes out vaginally. And in the beginning, it's there's a little ball, and it does not have that much impact. But when you don't treat that and you keep on going and do your things and don't give support, then it will become worse. And then at a moment it will come out. And that is the moment that a lot of people will have problems with loss of urine, having to go to the toilet every 10 minutes. They cannot prolong it when they feel that they have to go to the toilet. And the same problems with the bowel function, that it is too fast or too slow. And with sexuality, that it hurts, or you can imagine when there's a ball outside the vagina, it hurts when you walk, when you bicycle, when you go to do sports. So it really has a lot of impact on daily life.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the investment part a bit later on. For now, I was wondering, because Mirjam, you also said that there's basically two types of solutions. One is a pessary and the other one is surgery. And as I understand it, the product that you have, Flexsupp, is a replacement for the pessary, so not for surgery.
Yeah, if you look, when we ask women in research, we see that half of women with a pelvic organ prolapse, they would like to solve the problem without surgery. So when it's possible, they would like to have a pessary. So our solution is not a replacement for women who wants to have surgery. But half of women, they want to have a solution without surgery and choose for a pessary. And when a pessary fits well, it's a good solution. But the problem is that in half of the situations, the pessary does not work good enough from the pessary we have nowadays.
Okay.
So that is our focus, to make the pessary, make a new pessary that works better.
Yeah. But also, I think I remember that like most of the surgeries, or at least part of the surgeries, don't work in the end. So it sort of leads to a sort of relapse.
Yeah. The problem with surgery, a lot of women choose for surgery because they have the idea, I want a definite solution.
Yeah.
When I do surgery, then then the problem is solved for the rest of my life. But actually, the problem with surgery is that on the one hand, it can have complications like all surgery. But an important problem is that pelvic organ prolapse is something of a weakness of your tissues, and surgery does not change your vulnerability for this weakness. So also after surgery, you have the risk of getting it back. And after surgery, women always have to be cautious with heavy lifting, with running, with activities that give extra stress on pelvic organs to prevent to get a new prolapse. So surgery, it is a solution, but it has really disadvantages in a sense that it stays a weak spot. And to compare that with pessary treatment, you use a pessary. You can, if a pessary fits well, you don't feel it, and you can do anything you want. You can sport, you can run, you can do your exercise, because it's really supported, and it's not you don't have the problem as that you have with the surgery.
Okay. So what then about the pessary? Because I saw one. For the listeners, Bart is showing it. I saw one on stage. And can you describe the problem with a pessary? Maybe to describe it, it's like a donut.
There are a lot of different sizes, forms, types of pessaries. And the problem is that it is a one-size-fits-all principle. So in my hospital, I have a big room with really hundreds of pessaries where I can choose which one shall I take. And then you can choose with a donut or a cube form, or they all have these different reasons, indications when to choose one. But the problem with a lot of pessaries is that they give peak pressure vaginally, and because of this peak pressure, they give irritation, and this irritation can give vaginal discharge. It's a bit smelly. That doesn't feel nice for women, and sometimes it gives blood loss, and then you have to take it out again. So this is really a problem. Another important problem with these pessaries is that they are very big to bring in to give enough support. And the opening of the vagina is small, but above the opening, it's wider. So the pessary needs to be wider to give good support, and it has to pass this small entrance. So that's the problem with all the pessaries. You have to fold it in a way, what is not possible, but still we try to fold it in and to bring it in. But when you have to take it out, it's not that good. It's not possible to let it fall in. So it's hurt. It's for a lot of women, it's painful. And it had this for to clean the pessary, you need to do this procedure once in. It depends. One in 3 months at least.
Oh, that often.
We know that we also learn women to do it themselves, and then we see that women want to do it more frequently because they feel more hygienic about it when they can do that more frequently. And there are also a lot of women who prefer with intimacy to take it out. And then it's really important when women can do it themselves, that they are not dependent from a doctor to insert and remove the pessary. So there are different things that are important. The side effects, the possibility to manage your pessary yourself as a woman, that you don't need a doctor for that, and also the because it's a one-size-fits-all principle, that it's it's really trial and error to find the right pessary. So these are real problems with the pessaries we have now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to add to Miriam, if you would look at, let's say, the customer journey for getting a pessary, then in daily practice, on average, it would mean that you'll have 3 to 4 doctor visits to find the right size of pessary. Then once you finally have it, indeed, as Miriam describes, there's still a lot of side effects. And even, let's say, 3 to 4 doctor visits a year to have it cleaned and put back in. So in that sense, the customer journey in itself is a disaster, because women these days, of course, want to do all these kind of things themselves if they can. They won't accept, let's say, these kind of dependence on doctors, etc.
No.
Uh,
How does Flexsupp then solve for this? Maybe this is a good transition moment.
that's interesting, as, let's say, Flexsupp is the first individual adaptable pessary. And that makes quite a difference, as the anatomy of every woman is largely the same, though devil is in the details. We have developed a pessary which is adaptable to the anatomy of every single individual. With that, on the one hand, it gives the opportunity to treat the 3 different sorts of prolapse. But most importantly, it's as it's individually adaptable, you can have one piece on stock, and it can be adapted for every single patient. So the big stock of Mirjam is no longer needed. You can have it
Well,
set
the
up
big stock is
exactly.
needed, but just one device.
Exactly. One device will, as it's adaptable, it's not one size fits all, though one model will fit all as it's adaptable. And from that moment onwards, it's easy to insert yourself. It will not have the side effects as Miriam has described due to the design. And most importantly, I guess, every woman can manage and operate the device herself. Uh, so you don't need to go to the doctor 3 times a year to have it cleaned. You can easily take it out every single night, clean it with a bit of water, and insert the device the next morning. So it's not only from technical perspective the best solution, but most importantly, I think, also from user perspective, the independence is back for women to use it whenever, however they want to.
Yeah. It gives women back agency over their pelvic health. One question, Miriam, that I still had. Is there a way for women to, or is it necessary for women to do sort of fitness protocols or exercises in addition to having Flexsupp?
It's not necessary in a way that I do think that pelvic floor physiotherapy is very important, but I do that it's important in the when the prolapse is not in the in the milder stage. So I think that the place of pelvic floor physiotherapy is actually, well, before the pessary, and although it will improve the pelvic floor support, and yes, when the pelvic floor support is better, then every pessary will have bigger chance to stay in. So it's not a necessary part of our treatment. I do really think that when, as a family doctor, you see a woman who is talking about a prolapse, you should first send them to pelvic floor physiotherapy, because maybe you can prevent the prolapse to become worse, and to instruct people in how to handle this. So you won't hear me say that pelvic floor physiotherapy is not necessary. I think it's very important, but I don't think it's necessary as a part of our treatment. It has a place in the treatment of pelvic organ prolapse in general.
Yeah, but when I hear you correctly, it sort of precedes the stage that Flexsupp and other pessaries come in.
Yeah, you see that in a lot of cases, when a prolapse is just inside the body, just inside the vaginal opening, then the burden is less. And at the moment that it comes out, then physiotherapy is not enough anymore. And then you need something extra. And I think that when you train the pelvic floor support, then the chance that the prolapse will come out will become less. So I really think pelvic floor physiotherapy is very important. And I think it's also all the women that are pregnant, I think they should really train their pelvic floor very good, because it prevents problems later on in life. But at the moment that we have a prolapse, outside the vagina, that's enough. That won't help anymore.
Bart, during the prep call, we discussed the role of incumbents because this looks like or sounds like a really good solution. And then I asked the question, okay, so why isn't this on the market yet? Why is there still this huge stock room necessary of pessaries? And you said something along the lines of, they don't have an incentive to make it better. Can you tell me why that is? Because I think it's really important to understand for the whole story.
Yeah, and it's absolutely true. There are, of course, a lot of pessary producers at this moment, and they have a very good business in producing fairly simple silicone rings for quarters while selling them for hundreds. So there is a good margin on the one hand for all the current pessary producers, and there is no alternative. So in that sense, why should they innovate in that sense, as the business is brilliant for them? So there is no incentive for them to do this, while it's of course very risky. And of course, we have spoken to many of these big producers already. And what you see there is they're in that sense, they're really smart. On the one hand, now they have a beautiful business model with a lot of margin on fairly simple products. And on the sideline, people like us inventing alternative solutions, de-risking it before getting on the market. And we already noticed that there's a lot of interest from those established pessary producers of our product. But what they, of course, do very smart is that they wait until the product is finalized, is certified, and the moment it's certified, all risk is gone. And of course, they will be knocking on the door stating that they're interested in their stake.
Yeah.
But until that moment, why should they even innovate, as they already have a beautiful business model with a lot of margin, while there's no alternative?
Yeah, and years ago, we approached several of these companies that producing the traditional pessaries, and we shared our ideas. But at that moment, they did not have interest for what Bart just told. And at some point, we really concluded that if we really wanted this better pessary to become available, that we would have to develop it ourselves. They were not open to develop it with us together.
Okay, so but
for
once
them it's easy, because it's a risky road to develop a MedTech device. For every MedTech device, the same goes for ours, of course, because there are a lot of hurdles you need to take. And for them, as they have deep pockets, for them it's fairly easy just to step in the moment, let's say, all the risks are gone. So yes, there's absolutely an interest, though first de-risk the model, make sure that it's all there, and then they'll step in.
Yeah, but then the price will be adjusted accordingly, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. But in the range they're talking, of course, these are the global players. Money is a different ballgame there.
Yeah. Okay. It's interesting how it's sort of waiting then helps them in a
Yeah, but
sense.
you see exactly the same in IT landscape. Take, for instance, Meta or let's say the Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg company. They have been waiting and waiting and waiting, and all of a sudden they buy WhatsApp. Once it's on the market, once it's and then money is not a problem, as companies like Meta have sufficient money to buy whatever they want. And for them, that's just an easier way than developing themselves. And even to be honest, I think it's the right way, because developing a medical device asks for a lot of flexibility, going back and forth without too much layers in your organization to have an opinion about it. And I think to succeed in these kind of MedTech environments and developments, you need to have a smaller, flexible team who's fully focused on specifically this solution. And if you bring it to a big company in a too early stage, it will get overruled by all kind of rules and internal policies, etc., and it will
Yeah,
not end
that's
up in the market anyhow. So in
yeah,
that
that's
sense, it is a logical combination to have the development by a lean and mean, focused, flexible team, and then once it's proven, have it taken over by a big company. Because for us, in the end, the most important part is not earning money, but a big company for us would be interesting, as we can scale it globally. Like, for instance, in Africa, for us, it will be fairly hard to introduce a product in Africa. But for them, it's easier. And the main goal for us is helping those millions of women get the best solution.
yeah. And then at some point you need to scale, and that's what these companies are indeed good at. And to your point, I understand the part about not doing innovation in house because it gets overruled by bureaucracy. I've seen that happen myself. So in that sense, I do understand. But on the other hand, I do know that let's say in the industry where I'm from, financial services, there was a lot of innovation in house, and that was indeed done by small teams who were like totally parked in a separate business unit, preferably not on the same in the same building as where I worked. Because I was working in risk and compliance, so I was sort of the enemy at first. But yeah,
Agree, it can absolutely go hand in hand. I've, like I said, I've worked in real big corporates, but in a innovational corner. So it can go hand in hand. Though what I used to say, once I am more time busy filling Excel sheets and PowerPoints to explain than working on the actual product, it should indeed be done somewhere else.
okay.
Uh,
I want to move to building Flexsupp because, as I understand it from your pitch deck, a lot of research went into this, like 15 years of MRIs, imaging, studying anatomy. Mirjam, why was all that research necessary to develop the product?
Yeah. Well, we were surprised that has been so little research on a simple question: why do these pessaries fail? Why do all the traditional pessaries have these side effects?
Uh-huh.
And a lot of money in innovation goes to surgery, to pharmaceutical, to robotics, to implants, but not on the simple question: why does this simple solution does not work? And that was what we studied in our MRIs. We did MRIs standing, sitting, walking, standing and sitting, and laying down, with people having a pessary that work well and pessaries that fall out. And it's a simple idea, but it was really it learned us a lot. It learned a lot about what is happening there, and it appeared that a lot of old ideas about how a pessary is supported was not really the way it functioned. When a pessary fills out, that there was especially rotation that was important. And well, these things that we learned from our MRI studies uh, are directly related to the product that we developed, and we get an idea about which structures are really important and which components are really important to make the pessary better. So that was the reason why it has been very important to do these studies before.
Okay.
Yeah.
And right now you're at TRL 6. Maybe explain a bit what that stage is, and also what are the remaining risks of the solution at the moment.
Yeah. Well, we are currently finalizing our design freeze and are entering verification and validation. And validation is the clinical trial to collect our evidence. And well, crucial is funding, because we need to manufacture the molds. We have to make produce the clinical test devices. We have to complete all the verification activities as biocom. And well, these are the most that is the most important step for now. And the encouraging part is not enthusiasm. And when we look at clinicians and patients and hospitals, everyone is enthusiastic. It's really the phase of. We have already a lot of hospitals that have said that they would like to join us in the clinical trial. So we noticed that people are really a bit waiting for the product in the clinical field. So at this moment, we are really in the phase of this last step of finalizing the design, the design freeze, to go further with the real verification and validation.
Yeah, so it's really getting the proof that it works, it's safe, I guess. Also, is it also about safety still?
For safety, safety is always most important, but the materials we use in the product are well known and are already used in a lot of other pessaries and in other medical devices. So yes, we have to prove safety, but we are confident about that a part of the verification. But of course, that's always the first step in medical devices.
Yeah. So right now you need to establish that it works to be able to start selling.
It's part of the certification process.
Yeah.
Of course, let's say in the end you need to have certain certifications to be able to go to the market with your medical device. And after that product freeze, indeed, let's say the formal evidence needs to be gathered in clinical trials to make sure that certification is guaranteed. So we're already well prepared for all of those. We are about to enter that stage that evidence is gathered, put in a technical file, etc., to make sure that the notified body will grant us the certification. And that's the moment we can enter the market officially.
Okay. So if you look back, what is an assumption you held that turned out to be wrong, that was proven wrong during the investigations, during the research phase, but also maybe during the product design phase?
Well, I think we underestimated how difficult it was to turn a simple idea into a manufacturable product. At one point, we really thought we're there, we're finished, and we have expected to have the design freeze a year ago. But well, this last 10% of development, it takes more time than we expected. Some technical details did not work exactly as we had expected. And then we had to go back to the drawing table and had to find new partners for aspects of this technical development. This last 10% took more time than we had expected in the beginning. That it at that time and now it sometimes it feels frustrating, but on the other hand, we know that it's saved us from larger problems later on to make it.
Yeah, but while you're in it, it's always frustrating. How do you deal with that? How do you have a way to discuss that or?
We need each other, I think. We are
Group
all
therapy sessions.
quite optimistic, but you also have a lot of patience. And we have each other to give room for our frustrations one and then, but also celebrate our small victories. So I think a team effort is.
Exactly. That's what I would like to add, because we talked about, let's say, women and men in femtech, etc. I think having a complementary team is crucial. And complementary can be anything. Of course, for us, it's 50% women, 50% men, but scientific background, business background, different MBTI scores, whatever. I think, let's say, having diversity in your team in every single way helps. And that's exactly what you see. Of course, innovation gives some setbacks every now and then. Innovation isn't easy. It's not a straight line to the top. And especially, I think for us as a team, it works out perfectly that moments there is a setback, you see that diversity helps ourselves, let's say, to pick it up again and start running again, because everybody is different. So we know from each other, hey, now we'll give him or her a tap on the shoulder and it'll be okay, or not. Let's say those sessions together, of course, complain a bit and have a lot of laughs together. That makes the difference in overcoming these kind of setbacks.
Okay, so also team
So it's
culture.
all about the team. Yeah, it's all about the team.
Okay. I want to switch gears a bit, move into basically what it takes to sell down the road, because once you have collected all the evidence that you need, you are going to go to market. Usually, as I understand it, and the startups I worked with, is healthcare requires convincing not only patients, because I think they're really enthusiastic, if I hear you correctly, Mirjam, but also hospitals, also insurance companies to join, and also regulators. What has been the hardest party to win over?
Well, the expression, I think, is it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah.
The same, of course, goes for bringing a MedTech solution to the market. You need all these parts of the chain to become successful in the end.
Yeah.
And luckily, until now, everybody is convinced about our solution. Though, of course, there are always critical questions and ways to overcome them. There is not, I think, one particular part which is a burden, but you need to convince, of course, the GPs, the hospitals, the gynecologists, the purchasing departments.
Yeah.
So it's not that, let's say, one is hampering us, though you need to be convincing and see what's the benefit for all these parties. And there are a lot of benefits. If you, for instance, for the GPs, it's much easier for them to add to give a direct solution for all the patients. They don't need to fit 3 times, have the patients coming back and forth. So it's easy and no stock. For the hospitals, it's easy because we predict 43% less redirections from GPs to the hospitals and 17% less surgery. So for every part of that chain, there is a huge benefit from our perspective, and that helps convincing them in getting along.
The most difficult conversations are often with investors. And That's not because they doubt the problem or that they don't understand the problem, but it's simply because MedTech, it requires patience and
Yeah.
also for investors. So understandably, they want to see a return for their investment, but yeah, while we need funding at a stage where there's not yet any revenue and the regulatory process will still it has to be completed. So we need investors that are willing to take a somewhat longer view.
Yeah.
And so that's the most difficult conversation, I think, because as Bart tells, all the other stakeholders, they are really enthusiastic when you start talking about the subject.
Yeah. But what makes it difficult then for investors to see that return potential down the line? Because I think you're talking to investors who understand that there is always a risk that this will not work.
Yeah.
So where we do see a difference is I enter these kind of, let's say, gatherings quite a lot. And usually I enter a nicely set up room with 20 to 25 middle-aged white men.
Yeah.
And they, of course, do not experience the problem themselves and have no clue what the actual impact on the daily life of millions of women absolutely is. So it just takes a bit more convincing for us to make them aware of the unmet need. And for us, just a few days ago, we had a gathering with only female investors. And they, of course, as we know, 50% of all women above 40 suffer from this condition. So for them, it was quite easy, let's say, to at least understand the problem and take it really serious.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes a difference in the adaptation of, let's say, the solution.
Okay, so it's more about it's still about empathy with the end customer then.
Yeah, it does help a lot, and it's not, let's say, 100% necessary. If we have truly interesting conversations, of course, also with male investors. It's not that it should be women, though it does make it easier if you have, let's say, from close by experience the condition, and it might not be yourself, but it might be your mother or your
Yeah.
best friend or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, men need to come a long way, as this is not a topic men will discuss sitting along the campfire having beers.
No.
So they just need, let's say, a bigger road to get there.
A bit more
Yeah.
context.
Yeah.
Yeah, but is it more context or is it also that women talk about it more openly in their daily lives?
I guess it's both. Even for women, it is a taboo topic.
Yeah.
We notice that even women, although, like I said, a lot of them suffer from this condition, think, I had beautiful kids. This is just, let's say, the change I get. This is what comes along with having these beautiful kids. And of course, women are taught this way for centuries, that it's part of being a woman and having kids. And that's rubbish, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So even for women, it's not a daily topic, let alone for men. So there you see that there's just a distance on speaking on these kind of subjects between men.
Yeah, but do you think it will become easier if women talk about it more openly?
Absolutely, and I think they should, and therefore also all of our pitches and presentations, etc., are not only about the technical device we have developed. It's about breaking the taboo,
Yeah.
and it's needed because just the other week I had a presentation where I was told not to show any pictures of the condition of pelvic organ prolapse, as it should be not suitable for the audience. And as long as I still get these kind of remarks that showing this condition where millions of women suffer from is not appropriate for the audience, I think there's still a long way to go. So for us, it's not only about developing a device which relieves the problem, it's also about talking the problem and paving the way for all those women to talk about it and to get to the GP or gynecologist to get a solution, because
Yeah.
the threshold is still too high.
And it's also part of our activities that we put energy in this part of breaking the taboo and the shame. We have a grant for a collaboration with artists to have a project to make it a topic in public, to speak with people about this subject. So we are very active, of course, with the development of our product, but we also know that to become successful, it's also important that we break the taboo, and that's also a part of our activity, to join in initiatives to talk about the subject, bring it into the interest of a bigger public, and see all the possibilities to talk about it in public.
Yeah. Just wondering about one thing. For male investors and female investors, there's a difference in how they receive the product. Is that the same for doctors? Is there a difference between men and women, GPs, gynecologists, in how they were?
Don't think so. Of course, there's always a difference between doctors as people. We also have this difference in doctors, but the urogynecology is worldwide. Really, it's quite connected with each other. Every year we have 2 large meetings, world meetings, where everyone that is working in this field is joining, and there's really the subject of quality of life, and that to focus on quality instead of having the best operations, or that's really a culture change that has happened the last 10, 20 years in the association of urogynecologists. So no, I think in the field of the doctors, it's I think it has the attention, and people think that they feel the urgency, especially because we have this problem of worldwide aging. We get more and more old people, older women, getting older, also getting older in better health. So people need more quality to an older age. So it's also from another perspective, it's very important that we see that we have shortages in our healthcare system, and we have shortages in healthcare providers. So when we teach people in self-management, that can be an important solution for this problem of shortages. So that's something that doctors face every day. They face every day this shortage, and they see that it's necessary to find other solutions. And the focus on quality is really an important change.
Okay, well, that's good to hear. One thing I picked up on in the pitch deck is that you first want to enter the EU market and then move to America. And most companies that I speak to want to go first to the US for regulatory reasons and then move back to the EU. Why do first the EU?
We have deliberately chosen that way, as we know that regulatory-wise, the US entry could be the easy way, but we are not particularly looking for the easy way out. We're looking for the best way. And of course, we know that our product is eligible for the 510K route. So in that sense, we are prepared for the US. though we deliberately choose for Europe first. And it's not about, let's say, the turbulence in the US at the moment and the tariffs. Though for us, it's important that, especially in the begin stage, we can rely on a perfect network of GPs and gynecologists around us. And most importantly, get product feedback as soon as possible. So for us, having the quality and the feedback as soon as possible for us is more important than earning the money the sooner the better. No, it's about having a structural solution for all those women. So as long as quality is the prevailing factor, we do have the perfect network in Europe. So we deliberately choose to start in Europe. And from that point, in parallel, of course, do all the other exercises and move from there onwards. So first Europe, then US, then Asia, and then, of course, most importantly, we can also enter all other continents, for instance, Africa, which is usually overlooked. But even there, we see a lot of opportunity for our product, maybe in combination with some NGOs to help also women there.
Yeah, that would be really wonderful if you could do that.
Absolutely.
But taking the EU route, does that lead to complications in getting investors on board?
No, we're in that sense, we're quite lucky that there's quite a lot of interest in our company.
Mhm.
As we hear that finding investors and bigger amounts in America is said to be easier. Still, we're convinced about our route. And like I said, luckily we get quite a lot of attention also from that perspective. So it does not force us to go that direction. And that's, of course, helpful.
That is absolutely helpful. So I want to close with two questions I usually have. Thank you for explaining how pelvic floor health is in need of a better solution and what Flexsupp can do for that. I'm trying to solve a different problem, which is that female founders get way less funding than their male counterparts. I'm building an AI coach to connect female founders and investors. And I was wondering from your perspective, what is an essential part of the tool that I should build to make sure that I reach the goal of getting more funding to female founders?
Yeah, well, I think the most important thing is how we train AI. If we train it on historically based decisions, we train it in the bias that there's already there. So it's important that it's trained by more objective criteria. Yeah. The unmet needs of the well, you can imagine all the criteria you can definite. So I think that is most important, because otherwise it could reinforce a situation that is not then we bias our AI.
True. But I also think that the antidote to the bias is feeding it with data about, let's say, startups that women build. So that's sort of I use the transcripts of the episodes to train the model. So in that sense, it's my way of actually counteracting that bias factor. And then still you need a sort of traditional baseline, but that's more for the logic part of it. So Bart, any suggestions from your side?
No, like I said before, I think it's not about men or women. It's about the diversity.
Yeah.
So I think for your AI tooling, I think it's most important that you take so many different angles on the same topic to, in the end, let's say, come to some kind of objective connection between founders and investors. And it's not only about men and women. Men think usually different than women and the other way around. And that's perfect. Make a combination of it. I think that's crucial, but also other angles. The diversity is more than men and women. Of course, that's the easiest way, of course, to separate. But we should not separate. We should combine. And I think the most interesting part about, let's say, the AI tooling is not to bring in the man's perspective for female founders, but to bring 100 different angles where men and women is only one of them.
On that point, how do you avoid doing that in your own pitches, being accused of mansplaining? Because you're a male CEO pitching a women's health product.
Yeah, but there are also a lot of, let's say, male gynecologists giving the best treatment every single day, and it's about having authentic interest in the subject and really want to solve it. Where I do have the perfect knowledge, of course, of Kim and Mirjam beside me, and that's the combination that it should be. It's about the different competences and knowledge people have. And if you put that into motion in the perfect combination, then you'll end up with the best solution. So whether I'm a man or if I would be a woman, that should not make any difference.
That sounds like a great place to close. Mirjam Weemhoff, Bart van Diepenbeek, thank you very much for being my guest on Women Disrupting Tech. If people would like to learn more about you, connect with you, and or learn more about Saturn Pelvic Health and Flexsupp, where can they find you?
Of course, we have our website, which is easy, saturnpelvichealth.com. You can find us on LinkedIn, so please join our movement also on LinkedIn. And we're easily approachable. So if there are any additional questions, interest whatsoever, just let us know via website, LinkedIn, everything will suit.
No, thank you for having us. It was really nice to have the opportunity to tell about our baby.
Yeah. And we'll include links to your baby and to your LinkedIn's in the show notes. So once again, thank you very much for this wonderful conversation. Listeners, thank you very much for listening. And until the next episode, as always, keep being awesome. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to episode 164 of Women Disrupting Tech, titled Building an Adaptable Pessary to Restore Women's Autonomy, with Mirjam Weemhoff and Bart van Diepenbeek. Mirjam, Bart and I hope you found our conversation as enlightening and interesting as we intended it to be, and if you have any questions for Mirjam or Bart about pelvic health, please leave them in the comment section on Spotify, YouTube and or Apple Podcasts. If you want to connect with Mirjam or Bart or learn more about their new Adaptable Pessary, please check out the links in the show notes. As usual, you can find the show notes at womendisruptingtech.blog and on my Substack via the links in the caption. There you can also find the links to the Saturn Pelvic Health website, the TEDx Koolhaven Women event, and my new fundingcoach.ai tool. If you found this episode useful, please take a moment to rate and review the show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. And if you don't follow us yet, hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss a future episode. Every week you'll hear how another founder or investor is working to close the funding gap, one conversation at a time. Once again, thank you for listening. I hope to see you in the next episode, and until then, as always, keep being awesome.